Hi guys, welcome back to Scratch Skills. In today's video, we're going to be checking out Unit 3 of AP Computer Science A. That is everything that comes under Unit 3 class creations. So this is 10 to 18% of the exam, and let's go. Starting with some theory, system reliability is something that works, it's a program that works under every expected conditions. Impacts of programs include positive impacts like communication being easier, improves productivity, helps learning, and improves safety. Negative ones include addiction, privacy, and job loss. Ethics means deciding what is right versus what is wrong. It goes beyond thinking, does this work? 3 things AP cares about is avoiding harm, respecting privacy, and being fair. Intellectual property is basically the code that belongs to someone. A source, an open source, is free to use. A closed source is not free to use, and you must get permission before editing it. AI impacts include things like benefits, like automation, better recommendations, faster medical diagnosis, and risks include biased decisions, privacy issues, and ethical decision-making problems. Now, going to actual code, first we need to understand what a class is. A class is like a blueprint for a house would show what all goes under the house. In Java, a class must be declared using class and the class's name, which must always be capital. This does not create a student, it just says a student should exist in the program. To make an object, to make an actual student, we need to have an object. That's basically what we make from a class. So the formula to get the code to get a student is the object name, is the class name, object name equals to new class, and the parameters inside. So the student, because we're making a student from the student class, and the name of the student, so S1 for now, equals to new student. Another thing is instant variables are the data the object has. So for a student, the student would have a string name, an int grade, a double GPA maybe, and things like that. A method is what the student can do. They can do studying, do homework, and take rest, and things like that. Here is a basic glance of what a class would look like. It would have a class name, then the instant variables, methods. Now, there is one more thing that is always there, even though we can't see it over here. It's a constructor. A constructor is basically public class name instant variables, and they set the instant variables to have values. This is what actually helps us make an object. Think the set up the object when it's born. So this is the constructor, is how we make the class come to life. Over here is a person example with the constructor. So the constructor's name is always going to be the same name as the class, and it will have the instant variables over here that the user would type in, and the instant variables would be set by these parameters. And then there's the method here. Now, access control is something that is really important because everything that comes inside the public class, that is this bracket to this bracket, everything in its scope, we can use. Since it's private, we can only use inside this class. Anything that's public, we can use outside the class. So public person, this is the constructor, is basically, we can use it outside the class to make a person because we're making the object using the constructor. Like I was talking over here, so we use the constructor to create an object. You cannot create an object without the constructor. There is a default constructor even if you didn't write one, hidden with no parameters. Now, methods. Methods are actions that the object can perform. A void method, they can perform an action, but it doesn't like give anything back or change anything. Non-void methods do give something back. They return a new or default value. It doesn't print anything out. Both can print because print is not really like returning, giving back something. Print is just stating. Encapsulation basically means when an instant variable is private, so no outside class can mess with them. directly. That is, if I want to change the person's name to Bob, then it's basically a privacy breach of the class. So we hide it using the private. Now, if you really need to change it, then we make setter methods. And if we really need to read it, we have getter methods. Anything that changes data is a setter method. Anything that gets data is a getter method, or reads data. So here is a few examples. Next is parameters. Parameters and arguments. A variable that's inside a method header, like an official variable with the type, is a parameter. An argument is what we write afterwards. So over here, when I'm writing the method, it's going to have that. When I'm actually using the method with an object name, I will have the argument. Here's an example of a method with the parameters and then the using of the function with the arguments. Now, static methods are something that belong with the class, not objects. So static methods is how you call a class. You can only call a class using static methods. You cannot call a class otherwise. Example are math.random or string.substring or any of the other classes we made, like dog.bark. Instant variables are things that belong to the objects. You need an object to use them, to call them. So we make an object over here and then we call on an instant method. Now, an important rule is static methods cannot directly use instant variables. That means over here, if I'm trying to make a method that has an instant variable over here, it's not gonna work because they don't really know which dog we're talking about. Over here, instant methods can access instant variables because instant methods belong to objects. Over here is a bit of theory. So when I'm making an object, if I make A1, and then that's just making a copy of the reference and pass it to a method. So if I give it a method, what Java does is it copies the reference for the address, not the object. It does not make a completely new object. It just has another version of this object. So A1 and the new A1 are the same things. So the change affects if one changes, others change too. This is just theory, not too hard. Next is scope. We talked about scope earlier. It's where the brackets, everything inside the brackets, we can use the variable, private variables, and everything outside you cannot. Chaining methods include the breaking down of, like, if say I call P1 getAddress.getCity, it moves from left to right. So it gets the address, returns the address, and getCity runs on that address. Now what if getAddress returns a null? Then they ask what causes the error. It's an object in the null, so it causes a crash. Next thing is toString. toString is a non-void method and it always returns a string. And toString is actually system.out.print. So anytime we call system.out.print, we're automatically calling string. I will show you how this works when I'm showing the code part of this lesson. The next thing we're learning is this. This is the current object, and when I'm making two objects and I'm working inside the code and I have this, it basically refers to the object. This refers and belongs to the object, and this is just a temporary value. So over here, I made a class, and then I have an instant variable, and I have the person with the parameters of the object over there. So this name will go to the object's name, and name over here is just the parameter. So object name is this one, so it goes to the object name, and the parameter is this one. Now let's go to the code part of this function. I've made a dog class. In the dog class, I've named the class, and then I have the instant variables, and it's private because it's inside the scope of the dog class. And I have the constructor with all the instant variables over here. So string, string name, string breed, and int age. And over here, when I'm calling this, it goes to this name equals this name. This breed equals this breed. This age equals this age. Void methods does something, and this something is mostly printing. And so over here, when I'm calling bark, it would say, if I name the dog Ref, it would put Ref says woof. Now getter methods are what give a value, so they get the value. All they do is return name. If it's get name, get breed, it returns the breed, and get age returns the age. Setter methods change the value, so in the code over here, I'm going to change the value and show you how that works. And public static means it belongs to the class, not any object. You can use an object, but we don't usually. It always belongs to the class. So class info, this is the dog class. ToString is what automatically called when the object is printed. So if I put system.out.println, then I will have this version of the system.out.print printed. Here is an example of everything. So creating an object, we have the class name, object name equals new class, the constructor. Notice over here, it's the same string int. And then over here, we have string int. And when we're printing system.out.println, we are automatically calling the toString method. So it's gonna print in this format: name, breed, age, with these things over here. Like I said. Now what happens if I comment this off? Commenting is gonna show you what this actually toString is used for if any of you didn't understand it. So it's gonna print this weird number. It's gonna print the memory location of this. So that is wrong. We want it to be neat. We just wanted to print the dog name. So I'm gonna get that back. I'm gonna remove some of this if I just want the name. And don't forget the semicolon. Syntax errors. And over here, it's just gonna give me the name if I put system.out.println or just without ln. Next is each object has a copy of instant variables. That is, this is gonna give me the Rex, German Shepherd, and the age, because that's the code of line I have over here, and here it is. Next is the void that just runs. It just prints out something, doesn't change anything inside the object. Now we have setter methods that actually change things inside the objects that are non-void. So over here, I'm gonna print the age before, and later my dog's age is gonna be 4, so it's gonna give me age dot equals 4. Oh, I'm gonna print, since I removed things over here, plus age plus age, and that is gonna give me the age now, probably. Yes, so from 3 it turns to 4, because from here 3 to 4 we're setting the age. Static method is when we call the class, not the object. It's gonna give me the class info from what we wrote right here. So this is dot class right there. And then we have chaining that we learned over here. So over here we learned chaining, and that is when the get name to lowercase string methods. So the Rex name is gonna change into lowercase over there. To show how this works, I'm gonna put X in caps 2. It's just gonna still be lowercase right here. Next is this toString is printed automatically when an object is called. I have already showed this part to you guys. And then lastly, I'm gonna just cut this off. The this method over here is gonna be end of the main. Oh, right. I had an error over there. And the this Rex age 3. So this print dogs. We should make this a bit more neater. I'm gonna add the age over here, age, and this should be better. So Rex is gonna be 3. So this whole unit was basically about how classes work and a bit of theory. Here are some notes that I have for a quick review. I hope this video helped. See you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.